All right, it's 5 o'clock. We're going to get started. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to present to you guys today. I'm actually really excited there's as many of you in the room today, being 5 o'clock, and I know that there's more than one or two opportunities to go out and drink beer. I'll be joining you after this session, of course. We're going to talk today about Skype for Business and Microsoft Office Better Together. This is breakout session 2153, and it's a level 200 session. So for those of you that may not be familiar with how Microsoft does the levels of sessions, we go level 100, 200, 300, and 400, where level 3 and 400 are much more technical deep dives. Level 200, really what we're doing here today is we're talking to you about the integration of these products. We're going to get into a lot of demonstration of how these products work. My name's Evan Zaleschuk. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Go Flames. Anybody? No? Yeah, okay. But I do spend a lot of time traveling. This year I'm probably been on the road 3 weeks out of every month. And I'm not telling you that because I'm looking for your sympathy. I'm telling you that because I'm excited about these products from Microsoft because they gave me and give me the ability to be productive on the road. So a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about today and what I'm going to show you is stuff that I use on a regular basis. Whether I'm connected in a hotel, whether I'm connected in a Wi-Fi hotspot, whether I'm connected in a client site, or really connected on airplanes now. I can be productive there as well. I've given you my personal email address, so please feel free to reach out to me if you have questions about this session or questions just about Office 365, Skype for Business, and integration. I'd be more than happy to help and answer questions. I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, although I don't really do training anymore. I'm more on the alumni side. And I'm also a Microsoft, what we refer to as a PTSP for Office 365. What a PTSP is someone that has technical background in a specific discipline, but isn't really a Microsoft employee. I'm as close to a Microsoft employee as I can get without being part of the Microsoft world. And I focus on Office 365 in that role. I've been a participant in the Microsoft Technology Adoption Programs. Are any of you familiar with the Microsoft TAP programs? Yeah, a few of you. Great. So that means you're probably participants in those programs. So these are programs that are invitation only for partners and for customers where we work with the next versions of the products that Microsoft is releasing. And specifically in this case, the vNext TAP, or Skype for Business TAP, has been running for about 2.5 years, of course, coming to a close now. But I was also part of the 2013, the 2010, the OCSR2, OCSR1 technology adoption programs, along with a lot of my colleagues. So I've been working in this space for a considerable amount of time. I'm also a Microsoft MVP for Skype for Business and have been since about 2012. With that said, I'd like to encourage any of you that are interested in the MVP program to stop by the booth in the exhibit hall, the MVP booth. It's being staffed by MVPs, and if you're interested, we can talk to you about what it means to become an MVP, what you have to do to be an MVP and maintain that. And that's really why I'm here to talk to you today, as I am here as a Microsoft MVP. From an agenda perspective, I want to talk to you a little bit about what has changed and really what's changed for me in my work world, and I think you'll be able to relate to some of the changes that I've experienced and how I can work using these tools. And to me, it's really exciting that I can be connected anywhere on any one of my devices, whether it's my laptop, my Surface, my tablet, my mobile device, and still be able to function and work. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Skype for Business, and then we really want to get into that user experience. So from a user experience perspective, I want to go through some demos. We're going to go into using Outlook and how we have pervasiveness of Skype for Business through applications like Outlook, through Microsoft applications like Word and other applications like Excel, where we're seeing it in SharePoint, and we're going to go through all that. We're going to go into the ad hoc meeting experience. We're going to go into a scheduled meeting experience, and we're going to go into co-authoring. So quick question. How many of you were at the keynote yesterday and saw Gurdeep and Julie's part of the keynote? Okay, well, great, a lot of you. And then yesterday afternoon, were any of you in BJ and Ben's session about what's coming in Skype for Business? A few of you. Okay, good. All that stuff is coming. But I want to show you today what you can do today with Skype for Business and Office 365 and the Microsoft applications that are available to you today. We'll have some Q&A depending on timing and if everybody wants to stick around. But if we don't have time today or you don't have time to ask questions, I'd encourage you to come by the Skype for Business booth. I'll be there throughout the week along with a lot of my colleagues, and we can get into a more intimate conversation. We can show you more about these products there because we have them all running, plus some of the vendor products that integrate into Skype for Business, and also the MVP booth. It's open, and there'll be Skype for Business MVPs there to answer your questions. So if we don't get to you today, please feel free to come by. So what has really changed in our world today? If I really take a look at this photograph, I take a little exception to it because, well, that looks like my house with myself and my wife sitting on the couch after dinner, working from our mobile devices, sometimes we communicate with each other, which is kind of sad, but we also will be online answering email, doing research, checking things from various social media sites. And what we're seeing is individuals are now starting to use their own communication tools. They're building these ecosystems of products. And we're seeing communication, especially younger generations, being very short and more frequent, where we're saving audio and video conversations and telephone calls for more formal communications. We're also starting to see, and Gurdeep talked about this in the keynote yesterday, that mobile doesn't really refer to a device anymore. It refers to you or I. When we're mobile, we're working. And actually that whole term of work also changed. Work isn't really a place that I go. Work is something I do. It's a series of tasks that I perform wherever I happen to be, again, as long as I'm connected. So Gurdeep also referenced millennials and how 50% of the workforce will be millennials by 2020, and how that generation of people work. And really they've always had a smartphone in their hand. I wasn't sure what a millennial was, so I actually had to look it up, and it's Generation Y, or people that were born between 1982 and the year 2000s. It's interesting, I work from, obviously, on the road, or I work from home. I very rarely go into an office, and I don't work with my employees in that office. The organization that I work for, we're geographically dispersed across Canada and the United States and even into South America. So the only time I actually see some of these individuals is when we do a video call or when I go to the cities that they're in and happen to have a meeting with them, with a customer or with another partner. So we can really relate to the whole idea that so many people work remotely and that, well, I don't really spend a lot of time with my colleagues. This is really how our environment has changed. So Skype for Business, now released. How many people here are running the Skype for Business client after the push from Microsoft? A lot of you. How many of you are running Link 2013 or Link 2010 in the back end? Yeah, quite a number of you are as well. Okay. So it's pretty obvious, but we have the full feature set from Link in Skype for Business. What Microsoft has essentially done is they've taken what they've learned from the Skype side and taken that design and put it into what was Link 2013. So it's more intuitive, it's easier to use, and they've taken a lot of the feedback from the TAP program and from all of you to say, hey, this is what we need to do to make this product even better. Talking about deployment, and I was having a conversation with a gentleman earlier, just before this session, we really have the option to deploy server on-prem, server in the cloud, and server in a hybrid configuration. And hybrid can be a confusing term when we talk about Office 365 because hybrid can mean, well, part of your environment sits on-prem, part of your environment sits in the cloud. We can get into hybrid or what we call split domain configurations of one specific server. So, for example, Exchange can exist in the cloud and on-prem as well. That's referred to as hybrid. Microsoft is also bringing back features that they've had before and adding new features that they're referring to as hybrid. So when you talk about a hybrid configuration, it's going to be important to know what that really means. You heard broadcast meetings in Skype for Business is coming. That's going to require a hybrid configuration if you have your Skype for Business environment deployed on-prem, because you're going to need to be able to connect into Office 365 and Azure Media Services, which are what is performing that broadcast meeting. And the last point I want to make on this is, and I know the security people in the room always frown when I say this, but we don't require VPNs to be able to connect into Skype for Business. All that traffic is encrypted. And actually, when you use VPNs, we have a negative impact on real-time traffic. So I just like to make that a clear point that all that data is encrypted from client to client or client to server. So as I mentioned, we want to get into the user experience. And are people here familiar with the customer immersion experience from Microsoft that was brought out a few years ago? Has anybody been through what we call a CIE? Okay, a few of you have. I had a role with Microsoft as a virtual partner technology advisor where we did a lot of these customer immersion experiences, and we developed this a day in the life. So really what it means is a day in the life of me, a day in the life of you, how we use these products and how we use these tools. So I'm going to tell you about them, and I'm going to show you about how we use them and some of the capabilities that we have. From an integration perspective, for those of you that were at BJ's session yesterday afternoon, he showed you, talked about and showed Office 2016 co-authoring. We can do co-authoring today, just not the way that it was shown yesterday. What was shown yesterday is Office in 2016 Gen 2, where we're going to be able to do co-authoring from a specific application, within that specific application. We have some of those capabilities today, it's just done a little bit differently. The Skype button he talked about is coming. And one of the big things that I think is going to be very impactful, and just based on my experience with working with customers, is the automatic upload of content in a meeting. I think it's really cool. So as long as you attach information to a meeting request, that information will already be uploaded to your meeting. Today we can't do that. We have to upload it manually. So rightly or wrongly, I always start my day in Microsoft Outlook. First thing I do when I wake up, I I don't even flip open my laptop necessarily. I pick up my phone, and it's the first application that I look at, or I sit down at my desk, wherever that happens to be, and I open up Outlook and I start reading my email messages. How many of you are guilty of that same activity, that, yeah, the first thing you do is, and is it the last thing you do before you call it a day? Yeah, you know, it's kind of the expectation in society today. I read a statistic that after work hours, and I don't know how you want to define work hours, we're inundated with 15 additional hours of information. It's just the way that our culture works. Can you imagine another 15 hours in your day? I thought I already worked 15 hours a day, so how am I getting 30 hours a day of productivity in? I'm not. But a lot of these tools will help us get there and get closer. Oh, and I need to remind someone to remind me. I have T-shirts they just gave me about 30 seconds before our session that I'll hand out as we go through the session, or if people have questions at the end. I've got 5 T-shirts, Skype for Business T-shirts to hand out to you. So I'm going to switch to my demo. Here's my Outlook. This is my demo account for doing demonstrations like this. And the way that my Outlook looks might be different than yours. Doesn't really matter what it looks in what it looks like in our presentation. It's really the functionality that we have. So all of you are more than likely familiar with how it looks and the presence in email messages. And I can see here I've got an email message from Ben sent to myself, sent to a few other people, and we have presence. And you all understand presence. Green means available, yellow means somebody's away, red means you're busy. I just want to give you my definition of presence. To me, presence is, are you willing and able to communicate with somebody? Able means, are you physically at a device that has this capability? If you're walking down the hallway and you don't have your mobile device with you, are you able to communicate with me? No. But if you're sitting at your desk and your presence is showing green, you're probably willing to communicate with me. If your presence is showing red, well, it's up to you. It's a choice that you make. So that's just a definition that I've used for a number of years to help people understand what presence really means. Are you willing and able to communicate with me? So I see I've got an email message from my other demo account. I've got this thing for The Simpsons. My wife absolutely hates it, but 44 years old and I still watch that television show religiously because I only have a half-hour attention span. But here I've got an email message from this demo account that I've got here, and I can see Easy Demo Homer. He's away right now. And of course, as I hover over Homer, I see the contact card. This contact card comes from Link and Skype for Business, and it becomes pervasive through applications. So we're going to see this in other applications as well, and you're going to continue to see this grow through other applications that Microsoft releases. You heard about some of them yesterday at the keynote. I'm not going to get into those details, but we're going to be able to see this capability there as well. I have the ability, obviously, to send an instant message to this person. I want to talk to them about this. They said, hey, I see this fantastic event, Microsoft Ignite. Are you going to be there? Are you going there? Well, yeah, I am there. So I want to communicate with this person and tell them that I'm going to be there. I have the ability to do a call, whether you're connected through the PSTN or not. We always have the ability to do an audio call. That's where we try to default to because, well, quality is going to be better and it doesn't cost us long distance, so we try to avoid using PSTN. I can go straight into a video call, and I can send this person an email message. But you're going to say to me, well, Evan, you're in Outlook. Why do you need to send an email message from Outlook? Remember, this contact card becomes pervasive through applications. So I might be in a different application where I want to send an email message to this individual. And Microsoft's done the research to understand that switching between applications means you're going to become less productive. If we can have the same functionality through whatever application you're in, it's better. And we can take this contact card and build this functionality into other applications. So if you have line of business applications that you utilize on a regular basis, we have the ability to build this into those applications. We talk about the Internet of Things. We can have things that provide presence as well, so not necessarily a human being on the other side. Now, Easy Demo is a way. If I expand the contact card, I get more information about this individual. This is where we get that integration in between Skype for Business and Outlook and SharePoint. So all these applications start to come together to provide more functionality and provide us more information. But now I want to be able to talk to this individual about the fact that I'm at this conference. I could email him. He'll get that eventually. When will he respond? He'll just get buried in hundreds of other email that he has. I could call them, but they're not on a device they're going to be able to take the call because they're away. I could start a video call with them, but they're not going to respond because there's nobody there. So what do I do? My favorite little trick, for those of you that may not be aware, is I tag them for status change alerts right from this email message. So now, you'll see Easy is tagged for status change alerts. So now when that individual comes back to their desk or comes back and is willing and able to communicate with me, I'll be notified. So I don't have to worry about keeping an eye on that person, trying to track them down. I can go back and be productive for the rest of my day. I had a CEO of a company tell me that in his organization, for him personally, this one feature gave him between an hour to an hour and a half of additional productivity every week because his email came in and a person wasn't available, he would tag them or her and go about his day and be more productive instead of trying to track these people down, especially if it was something urgent. So now Easy Demo is tagged for status change alerts. So Easy Demo decides to come back to his desk and he's available. Here's what happens. We get this little pop-up, a toast. I got to tell you a story. It's kind of embarrassing, but I couldn't understand why Microsoft called it a pop-up. I couldn't understand why Microsoft called the presence icons jelly beans. They said presence icon should be called a presence icon. A pop-up should be called a pop-up, not a toast. Well, little did I realize that what does toast do? Yeah, it pops up. Not in my house. I use a toaster oven, so I still have a tough time with toast, but I now understand why. I guess all the toaster ovens at Microsoft pop up. But you saw how quickly that this individual came back online, the toast came up, and now I can communicate with this individual. So I like using something that I refer to as I am etiquette. And I'll say, do you have a minute? Can you I am or call? So send a message over to this individual and, well, we can start a communication. So the whole idea of the I am etiquette thing comes from me working with people in different time zones. And again, we're going back to that long workday. I may be at my desk. Am I presentable? I used to get people that would just request a video conversation with me right off the bat, and I'd decline it because, well, I may have just woke up or maybe I'm just getting ready to go to bed. So I always like to ask someone, are you able to communicate with me? Especially if they're busy, if they're red. If they're on a call, they're on a conference call, maybe can you just I am, answer a quick question? And a lot of times people will say, yeah, they can. So from here, of course, I have the ability to start a video call. So let's do that. I want to show you, for those of you that may not be familiar with the Skype for Business client, when you click on the icon to start a video call, you'll notice that the video comes up. But no video is being sent. And I'm telling you this because I've seen an environment where I walked through the environment and people had sticky notes over top of the camera on their laptops. And I said, why do you do that? It kind of defeats the whole purpose of using this product because we want to interact with people visually. And they said, well, I saw my video pop up. And I said, okay, and then what? Well, I thought everybody could see me and I wasn't ready for them to see me. And I sat down with them and I said, okay, well, I think I understand what's happening, and I did this, and they said, yeah, just like that. And I pointed to the fact that start my video has to occur before you start sharing your video. So, video call to the other individual accepts that video call, and now we're communicating with each other in a nice peer-to-peer conversation. So I want to point out, have you seen the Skype for Business client yet? Just this. We haven't actually gone into the client the same way we would go into the Outlook client to see email. We haven't gone into the Skype for Business client to start any of this communication. So we can communicate with each other. I can mute my line. I can present content. I can present all sorts of content, whether it's my desktop, different programs, PowerPoint files. And I'm going to talk to you about PowerPoint files when we get into the scheduled meeting and how there's a big difference between uploading a PowerPoint presentation and just sharing it from your desktop. And of course, if we need to, we can add more people to this conversation. So that icon in the top right-hand corner allows us to add people to the conversation. This is one of many ways we can perform this function. We have the ability to drag and drop, and we'll show you that right away as well. The other thing is I can enter a phone number in here. So just because I don't have an individual in my contact list doesn't mean I can't reach them. So if I want to, I can simply type in a phone number and make a phone call. So this would be a phone call where I bring someone in across the PSTN network. I'm in an audio conversation and a video conversation with this other individual, my two demo accounts, but that doesn't preclude you from having an audio conversation with someone who happens to be on a mobile device. So the point of what I wanted to show you was that from an email message, we have the ability to start an IM. You'll see that Easy Demo is still tagged for status change alerts. That will remain active. I actually tag some of the people that I think are most important in my organization that I communicate with a lot permanently, so that I always get a reminder that they're online, because they're off and online quite often. So we started an IM conversation from an email message. We went into an audio video call. We had the ability to start sharing content. We refer to that as an ad hoc conversation. So the next thing that we want to do is go from an ad hoc conversation into a scheduled meeting. And I want to show you some of the controls that you have prior to the meeting as well as during that meeting. So we can set up meetings in advance, of course, but we can set up meetings with specific parameters for individuals that are going to participate in that meeting, whether they're a presenter, whether they're not a presenter, where we can mute all attendees, where we can take IM conversations away from them. So let's go into the second piece and talk about a scheduled meeting. So scheduling meetings is really no different than the meetings that we would schedule normally. We just have to make them a Skype for Business meeting. So if I want to schedule this meeting, let's say this is an Ignite demo meeting. I'm going to make it a Skype for Business meeting by simply clicking on that icon, and you'll see that it simply embeds that simple URL into this meeting request. So now this meeting will be done online. When you click on Join Skype Meeting, if you're running Skype or Link, it'll automatically start that from the client. If someone's not running Skype for Business or Link, they can still join the meeting as long as they're internet connected and on a web browser. Any current web browser will be able to run the Skype for Business meeting. But here's one other thing, and I think really OneNote, when OneNote in 2013, when it was released, it changed the way that I work. I took some time, and I started using OneNote in all my meetings instead of carrying pen and paper. OneNote synchronized into OneDrive. My notes were now synchronized across all my devices. And where it really became powerful was when it was initially integrated with Link 2013 and now Skype for Business. So what do I mean? Well, if I click on my OneNote icon, I now can share notes within this meeting. I pick the particular section of the notebook that I want to share with the individuals that are going to be a part of this meeting, and look what happens. It embeds a URL for this meeting. A URL for the notes within this meeting. So now I'm going to invite some people. Just for fun, I'll invite myself. So now I'm invited. And you'll see presence right away as soon as I start typing people's names. Presence from the fact that my one account is offline. My demo account has been inactive. That's the one right beside me. Remember, period of inactivity of 5 minutes or longer by default, you go into inactive. Link and Skype for Business are smart enough to say, well, if you haven't touched your device for a period of time, you may no longer be paying attention to it. So are you able and willing to communicate with somebody? You're probably not able because you're not paying attention. And you can change that configuration. You'll see right away as soon as I touched it, that becomes available. How many people are familiar with the meeting options? Setting this up before. And I find this really powerful, and I use it quite often. By default, the way that we've got it set up right now, I have a dedicated meeting space, which it says is less secure. Well, why? Well, because I can control permissions in some other meeting spaces. So, before I send out this meeting request, I have options. We can create a lobby where we have people waiting in a lobby until you admit them. So you can see them waiting in the lobby. You get the opportunity to admit everybody or just certain individuals. So by default, I have anyone can join, no restrictions. I have the option for anyone from my organization gets in without having to wait in the lobby, or only people I invite from my company. What's the difference between those two? There's an important difference, and I learned this a long time ago. So anyone from my organization means if I send out a meeting request to these two people, and they forward it on to other people in my organization, everybody gets in. If I say only people I invite, it's only those two people that are the meeting invitation that can get in without waiting in the lobby from my organization. Where I use this, and where other organizations use this, if you have a sensitive meeting that you only want certain people to be a part of, and I get my meetings hijacked once in a while because we share our calendar, someone can see a meeting, click on it, and join. This way they can't. Or if someone accidentally forwards a meeting request to the wrong person, they all have to wait in the lobby. So I can see visually who's in the lobby and decide whether I want to invite them or not, and prevent people from coming into my meeting if it has secure content or if it's a sensitive subject. But I like using anyone from my organization, especially for a reoccurring meeting. I can't make all my meetings. So if there's a reoccurring meeting and I'm not able to attend, I'd like to have somebody else from my organization run that meeting. If I would have used only people I invite or only me, might not have been able to let anybody into that meeting, and, well, would have been a waste of an hour of everybody's time. If calls come in across the PSTN, come directly in or have to wait in the lobby, you'll see their DID number while they're waiting. You can use announce when people come or come or go from the meeting. Use that cautiously. If you've got a large meeting, it can be kind of invasive when people are joining and leaving. And then from who's a presenter. Similar type of functionality, only me or people that I choose, so only certain people from my organization, so similar to only people that I invite to the meeting or anybody, no restrictions. Finally, I can disable IM. That's IM for that particular meeting. That doesn't disable IM across the board. It still allows people to have sideline conversations, but it keeps the window in your online meeting grayed out so people can't communicate. We can mute all attendees. This is nice when you have meetings when you're utilizing large office spaces or conference rooms and people are joining and there's always a lot of noise before people come in. You can have everybody muted off the start. And you can block attendees' video, which, interesting, it allows you as a presenter to still share your video and audio. So maybe you just want everybody to focus on yourself. You have that option as well. So now I've got meeting notes attached. If I want to take a look at these meeting notes now, I just simply click on it, and well, there's my meeting notes for this meeting. This is the OneNote integration that we have. So what you'll notice is it takes that meeting invite, it embeds it. So I've got a permanent record of this meeting invite now within OneNote. And I can see all my participants that have been invited to this meeting. I will show you this when we get into an actual meeting that we have scheduled. And lastly, I already said that people can join this meeting from a web browser if they don't have Skype for Business or Link. Well, what about these meeting notes? These meeting notes are also available online in OneNote Online. So it doesn't preclude people just because they're running a web browser. It gives them almost all the same functionality that you would have if they're running Skype for Business or Link 2013 when they're not. So if I go into my meeting that I've currently got scheduled, you'll see here my reminder popped up. It actually popped up 18 minutes ago. But one of the nice things is I can join right from the pop-up. So wherever I happen to be, whatever application I'm using, when that reminder comes up and says, you got 5 minutes before your meeting, you can tell it to snooze, and it'll pop up again. As soon as it does, we can join that online meeting. So here's that meeting I've got scheduled. Well, look at this. I've got people waiting in the lobby. Let's take a look at who's waiting in the lobby. As I adjust the size of my screen, I'll say, here I am a presenter. I've got Chris and Ben from my company. So let's admit them all into the actual meeting. So now I see these guys are in my meeting. I could have denied them. I could have denied them both. I could have denied one of them, but then the demo wouldn't have been productive. See that I have meeting notes shared. So this is the attachment, or that URL that was embedded from OneNote into this particular meeting. There's Chris Diaz. I'm going to turn on my video. So we see Chris Diaz, my colleague. Chris is actually coming to us from Bellevue, Washington. He's very close to the Microsoft campus. Chris is a link master for us in the U.S. And Ben Sept, who's also online, is coming to us from Vancouver, if he decides to turn on his video. There we go. Hello, Ben. Say hi to the crowd, people. So these are my work colleagues, and as I said, I wanted to show you how I work and function. So this is our environment. We're connected into a Skype for Business environment that's sitting in Bellevue, Washington. We're also connected into Office 365 for some of our functionality. So no different than the way that you would all use these products. I'm showing them to you here today. So I also wanted to go into a couple of the features and functionality for those of you who may not be familiar. Right now, it's showing us all our active workloads. Someone used the term workload either in the keynote yesterday or in one of the presentations that I was at. Workload basically means the functionality that the product provides. So when we talk about instant messaging, that's a workload. When I talk about video, that's a workload. So when I come down here, I can see the most commonly used buttons have been made very easy and accessible. I turned on my video, workload. We have audio as a workload. And now we want to talk about some specific things. I've got some content in this meeting. I can share my desktop. I can share some programs. I can share PowerPoint files. But let's see what kind of content I have here. I've already uploaded some content to this meeting. So like a good organizer of a meeting, I have all my content ready. I've got my presentable content from a PowerPoint presentation. Now, why did I upload my PowerPoint presentation? Without getting too technical, your PowerPoint presentation in Skype for Business in Link 2013 comes from another server in the environment called Office Web App Server, which is also utilized by SharePoint 2013 and Exchange 2013. It's not a role specifically for Link or Skype for Business, but we make use of it. So I've got this PowerPoint presentation uploaded. Two things. One, the amount of bandwidth that's required when I upload it to the OWASP server, the Office Web App Server, is a lot less than if I'm sharing my desktop. That's important in a large organization, especially if you do a lot of PowerPoint presentations. And if you want, after the session, I can talk to you technically on exactly what happens and the difference between sharing your desktop as a PowerPoint presentation or using the OWASP server. You'll also see that I was able to annotate in this. So I was looking at this earlier, and I said, look at what's happening here. Why did it scramble my name? So what I did is I was able to pick up a pen and draw a circle around a specific area. You can't annotate, and other people can't annotate. They're in the meeting when it's just a share from your desktop. Now, Ben and Chris are currently attendees. So I'm the only presenter. I'm the one that has all the control. I'm going to make Ben a presenter. I right-click on his name, and now I have the ability to control this individual from this meeting. I'm going to make him a presenter, so now he has a lot of the capabilities that I have in this meeting, so he can do annotations and he can do other things within the meeting as well in this PowerPoint deck. But I also want to talk to you about these icons. So anything that's across the top here for any one of us shows us how we're communicating. There's been no instant messaging in this conversation yet, so the I am icon is grayed out. The audio is muted. We are using video, and we are using presentation. You'll see the starbursts beside my beside my microphone. That means I'm the active speaker. So I have the ability to look at Ben and Chris. I can see Chris isn't talking, but he's in the call. He's not muted. Ben is muted. I'm going to unmute Ben. So Ben now can talk to us. But what I want to, I guess the scenario that I want to relay to you is, how many times have you been in an audio call, whether it's a Skype for Business, a Link 2013, or an audio bridge, and someone puts you and everybody else on hold, and all of a sudden you get music on hold? Well, the first time that happened to me many years ago, I'm sitting there yelling at the person, "Take us off hold." Some of you get it. They're not going to hear me because they've put me on hold, and I'm getting their music playing, and it's very disruptive. So what do? I look at the starbursts. I find out where that audio is coming from, right-click on that person, and mute them. If I'm really mad at that person, I can kick them out of the meeting as well. So we have these controls within the meeting to be able to make a better experience, really, for everybody. If Ben's doing things that I don't think are conducive to our meeting, I can make him an attendee again. So you saw how before the meeting I could control who's a presenter, who isn't. Maybe I forgot to do that. Or maybe somebody has some content that they need to present or talk about. I have the ability to promote them within the meeting quickly. See what other content I have here. And let's take a look at some of these permissions of this content. So I've got a whiteboard that was done beforehand. Maybe it's something that I wanted to talk about. You'll see that right now everybody has access to this this whiteboard, which means they have the ability to save this and download it themselves. So we can attach files, and we can give people permissions to access those files, or we don't have to. So let's see what the whiteboard is all about. This is a simple Skype for Business architecture. We got a single front-end server. We got an edge server. The edge server is sitting in the DMZ. Great. I want to go into my notes. So here's the notes that were attached to my meeting. I could have opened this up right at the beginning. I can open it at any time. It's always accessible. But I want you to see something here. Here are all the people that were invited to this particular meeting. We see when they joined, how they joined. We see that Ben joined in Skype for Business. Chris joined in Skype for Business. I'm the meeting organizer, and I joined in Skype for Business. When I said OneNote really changed my business life, I started taking all my notes within OneNote, whether I was typing or whether I used a tablet and I was writing. I had those wherever I went, on any device I went to, because everything was synced to OneDrive. But what's one of the first things that everybody does in a meeting? You sit down in a meeting, whether you're a remote participant or you're in the meeting. Who is everybody? What are your roles? How hard is it to type in everybody's name as they're saying it when everybody's remote and you've got a lot of people in that meeting? You don't have to do that anymore. It's right there in front of you. That's where it changes my life in the business world. It also tells me who didn't join the meeting. So if I got to follow up with Evan at Illuminary Tech or Easy Demo after the fact because they weren't part of the meeting, I can do that. Or maybe I want to give them a call or IM them and say, "Hey, how come you're not in my meeting? Get in here." You'll also see what happens here. As we go into this OneNote, we can edit it. And you can see here, Ben Sept, BS, has added some notes, and Chris Diaz has added some notes. So now we can start collaborating and adding content real time. So this is some of those co-authoring features that we were seeing yesterday. It's already in OneNote. We have that ability when we start sharing this information and sharing this content. And this doesn't preclude people from joining from a web browser and doing the same thing. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I don't understand that one, but Ben's a bit of a strange guy because he's from Vancouver. Anybody here from Vancouver? Oh, sorry, I don't mean to insult people from Vancouver, other than the fact that the Flames, yeah. So, again, this OneNote has really changed the way that I work. But you also see here, there's files to be downloaded because they were in the meeting. So if I click on that, I'm going to say, allow download of all files. What's it doing in the background? It's downloading my PowerPoint deck. So now, because I had that content in my meeting, it's also going to be in OneNote. So I can always go back to this and refer to it. The great thing about OneNote, great thing about conversation history within Lync and Skype for Business is once we have that enabled, we can search through Outlook, I can search through OneNote. So anytime I need to remember a meeting, I can come back here and I can do a search. So, how many people are using OneNote 2013 today? A lot of you. How many people use it like this and were aware that this was available? A few of you. Great. How many people are going to start using it like this? Yay. I've accomplished my goal today. I wanted you to be able to start using more of Microsoft Office and the integration. But we're not done. So, I wanted to give you a quick rundown, and I know this isn't really about Skype for Business, but it's about that integration. So I want to set the stage for being able to do certain things within Skype for Business and how we can integrate into the Microsoft Office applications as well. So I think I'm going to let Chris and Ben go. Thanks, guys, for being a part of the demo. Really just a couple of pretty faces. Here's one thing. If I click the X like we're so used to, what happens? This meeting will stay active, so Chris and Ben can continue. Maybe I don't want that to happen. Maybe well, even though they've left the meeting, in order for me to properly end this meeting, I have to use the three dots and end the meeting. This can be important when you've got a lot of people that are remote participants or people from outside your organization. Maybe you don't want to leave them in a conversation, well, after you've been gone. Who knows what they'll say. All right. This was something new that Microsoft brought to us in Skype for Business, Call Monitor. I didn't understand it in the beginning. I actually thought it was a bit of a nuisance, but I've changed my mind entirely. So the Call Monitor really comes up if you're an audio or video conversation, and this is what it looks like via audio or video. Now, I know that BJ shared this in his session, and he talked about it in some of the new functionality that's coming, especially with the Skype icon that's going to be attached to it, where we're going to be able to do some interesting things with the call monitor. But the important thing to understand about it is it's always on top. So it's always an active window. And we'll show you why I think that's so important right away. I want to talk to you about co-authoring. Joel Semeniuk is somebody that I've known for quite a few years. He works for another Microsoft partner. They're distributed across Canada, United States, and South Africa. And they do a lot of development. They were actually in, I think, 2011, they were the Application Lifecycle Management Partner of the Year for Microsoft globally. So they do a lot of work globally. They do a lot of collaboration. Co-authoring, as he said, is really literally giving them thousands of hours of productivity, additional productivity a year. Now, Joel used to be a Microsoft MVP. He's now a Microsoft director, so when he makes a comment like this, it's legitimate. And this is only one of those ROIs, or return on investment, that ImagineNet has experienced. So I want to show and I want to share the co-authoring experience with you. And I'm going to do that utilizing my two machines here. So to start my collaboration session, I'm going to log into, or my co-authoring session, I'm going to log into Office 365. And there you see I still have Easy Demo tagged. I'm going to untag them. So I've got a number of files that I've uploaded and I have in my OneDrive, and I've given access to some of these files to some other individuals in my organization. We're going to get into getting started for OneDrive. So I click on this right away and it comes up and it's opening up in a web browser. So if you don't have Word installed on your machine, you still have the ability to bring up documents from OneDrive and have a look at them. Even more importantly, I can start doing light editing within my browser, edit in Word Online. So I'm bringing this up, and now I have this document in front of me. Look what happened. Easy Demo is also editing this document. Saw that pop up? Here it is. So that means this other account is actually editing this document as well. So as soon as we start manipulating the content, come on. Oh, I'm having a connectivity problem. 1 minute. You'll notice how it says it's just you here now. So it informs you that whoever was also in this document has left. Easy Demo is now editing. So here we go. This is what I wanted to show you. So I now can see that this individual is in this document. I have the ability to find out who it is just by hovering over this individual's name. Now, today, we don't see the presence. We don't have the ability to bring up that contact card. It's not pervasive through OneDrive and Word Online, but that's coming because that was already shown to us. But at least it gives me the ability to say, well, wait, if he's editing this document or she's editing this document, why don't I reach out to them? They're available. And I double click and start a video conversation. And now we're looking at each other, we're talking to each other. Remember the call monitor. I'm going to go back to my document, and I'm now interacting with this individual. No matter what I have active, whatever I'm working on, I will be able to see this person and hear this person. So, yes, I wasn't able to one-click right from the document, but I was able to find out who was modifying this document with me, find them, make a call into them and say, let's do this together. Let's work on this document together. If I want, I can bring more people into the conversation, and what will happen in the call monitor is the active speaker will always be shown. So you'll always be able to see the person that's talking to you on the other line. Now, how often does this happen in the real world? It happens. But what about for people that are using Word on their desktop? Well, now I want to open this document in Word. For whatever reason, maybe I want to do a little bit more than light editing, or maybe it's just the way that I work. So I've got this document open in Word. Look what happens. I get a notification that, well, Easy Demo is working on this document as well. Here's where things change a little bit. Shortcut. As soon as I click on the little icon of the two people, or however many people there are, there's that contact card. There's that pervasiveness of that contact card through applications. So I'm in Word on my desktop. I'm seeing the integration in Skype for Business, and now here's that contact card. I can send an IM, make a call, do a video call, send an email. Remember, Evan, you showed this to me last time. I had the question, why would I want to send an email message from Outlook? Well, we're not in Outlook anymore. It's pervasive through applications, so I could send them an email message right from this contact card. And again, I have that same functionality of the extended contact card. And here, again, you see more information about this individual. Why do you see more information about this individual now than I did before? Well, that's because this person's part of my organization. So I start to see all that integration with Outlook. They're tentatively in a meeting right now outside of their working hours because in their time zone, it's 6 p.m. So I start to see that information being pulled from other applications in that contact card. So if I want, again, I can say, you are in my document, please leave. So what happens over here? Okay, poor guy got in trouble, so he's going to close down that document. Thank you. And now I know that I'm the only one accessing this document. So we've gone from starting a conversation from an email message into an ad hoc conversation, being able to use different functionality, being able to do different things. We did the same thing doing an ad hoc meeting, a scheduled meeting or a structured meeting, and we've gone into the co-authoring. Now, co-authoring is available in Word, in Excel, and of course, as we get further down the road with Microsoft, we're going to have more and more functionality that's going to be easier for end users to consume. So that whole meeting experience is changing. There's a couple more points I want to make, and then we'll open up the floor for Q&A if you want to stick around. Again, I've got some shirts. I can't leave without talking to you about the Surface Hub and the link room systems. So, again, I encourage you to go by the Skype for Business booth. There is a Surface Hub there. If you haven't seen it already, go have a look. It's hard to describe what it's like and what the experience is like until you actually get to touch it. From a high-level perspective, it's got 2 cameras in it because more than one person can be on that device at the same time because it supports multi-touch. You can have 2 people using pens, one person using a pen, one person using their fingers for touch and manipulating content. So it's got cameras to show both those individuals. It'll run any Windows 10 trusted app, or better referred to as Windows 10 universal apps that we were talking about yesterday at the keynote. And the experience is simple. It's simple to use. What I want you to do is, if you go and see this device, is make sure that it starts from the very beginning where you get to see the actual meeting invitation and how quick and easy it is to join. Now, with that said, there's of course still the Skype room systems. Go see these as well. Smart, Polycom, and Crestron all have the Skype room systems. See them and interact with them as well. Same kind of quick join meeting experience, but after that the experience can be a little bit different. We have pen input, and each one of the vendors does things a little bit differently, so it's good to see all 3 of them. Microsoft is continuing the development of the Skype room system client. So you'll have the Surface Hub and you're going to have the Skype room system. We see organizations that are using both, depending on the requirements for that organization. So again, I encourage you to go by and talk to the individuals that are working at all these booths. And again, the Skype for Business booth to see the Surface Hub. Now, I know there were a lot of sessions yesterday that had related content. There's still some more coming. These are level 300 sessions that I would recommend you seeing. So they're going to be more technical. The one that's going to take what we did today and actually build upon it from a technical perspective is a deep dive into Skype for Business and Microsoft Office integration. Lastly, get into the Office 365 conversation. You can see the Office 365 link there. And that's all I have. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them on the mics if you want everybody to hear, or come up and talk to me. And remember, I've got 5 T-shirts that I need to get rid of if you want a Skype for Business T-shirt. So thanks, everybody, for coming out. I really enjoyed talking to you. And